Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all guys to invite me to join this policy meeting. It's unusual for me. Normally, I'm not joining the economics and policy meeting, but today I learned very much from you. I'm a soil scientist and agronomist. Therefore, I would like to use my expertise to talk about environment costs and sustainable food production in China. As Jikun said, that the Chinese agriculture is under major transformation in the moment, especially since year before last year, our central government changed the major policy for agriculture development. Before that, the major policy is to produce enough food for this large population country. But now, the major policy is to produce efficiently, to produce quality food, and to use resources efficiently, and to protect the environment. Means that we change for self-sufficiency policy now to sustainable production policy now. Therefore, I would like to use our expertise to give you example how to realize transformation in China for food production. And I would like to raise question how to change policy. It took more than 20 years to change this policy, actually, in my experience. I will not talk about water. I will use fertilizer as one example. Firstly, I would like to talk about costs of fertilizer input, and then talk about how to realize change in China step by step. And lastly, I would like to talk about realize change not only by technology, by policy, but mainly by smallholder farmer themselves. This figure shows that the grain productivity increase in China steadily in last years. But if you see the input, all the input, fertilizer, irrigation water, plastic film, chemicals, and so on, it increased much more fast than grain production. Means that input increase more and output increase slowly. The efficiency decrease actually. The Chinese grain production is merely supported by very high resources input in last years. One example is fertilizer input. You see, if we take 1980s as 100% of the grain production and fertilizer input, till 2008, the grain production increased only by 59%, but fertilizer input increased by 3 times. Means the efficiency of fertilizer use decreased very much. There's no question. All these nutrients has to go to somewhere. If plants do not use, they go to water. We do not have any clear water, clear surface water. If you go from south to north, you everywhere see this green water, not blue water. It's green water because pollution. And also air pollution. If you look at the air pollution in China, in North China Plain, our data show that in last 3 decades, the atmospheric deposition of the nitrogen increased by 60%. 2/3 of that come from agriculture, from animal production and fertilizer, chemical fertilizer utilization. Also, 2010, we reported that the Chinese cropland will suffer from significant acidification. This is very unique in China. You could not find any of these examples worldwide in such a large scale. You could find acid deposition in Europe and US in 80s. You could find soil acidification by legume in Australia, but soil acidification caused by over-fertilization of nitrogen, this is unique in China. As we publish this data, many questions arise. They ask questions about how this influences the food security, how this influences environmental quality, and so on. We didn't know. In the last 5 years, my students did lots of study. Now we are able to show that the impact is enormous. Not only reduction of productivity, but also reduction of quality, such as banana suffer from a calcium deficiency, cause the quality reduction, and also heavy metal activation in the soils, so that we have a large area of cadmium rise. Cadmium rise is not because cadmium contents in the soil is too high. It's because the unactivated cadmium be activated by pH drops, soil acidification in South China actually. Therefore, the over application of the fertilizer bring a big problem for environment costs and accessibility of Chinese development. But how to make change to realize sustainable development in China? We start with a simple concept 20 years ago. That was very simple. Reduce over-input, over-fertilization without diminution of the productivity. Because China faces food security problem, we are not allowed to reduce productivity. You are able to reduce 20% of input without diminution of the productivity. That is very simple. And then we start look at technology and strategy to increase productivity by 10% so that farmers are able to see the benefit of your technology. Because if you just reduce input, you really protect the environment, but farmer could not get benefit from their activity. Therefore, we would like to increase productivity by 10%, increase efficiency by 20%, so that you are able to reduce 20% of pollution in the field. During these processes, we realized that we are able to increase productivity by 30%. As Yossi reported just before that, in India you need about 50% to 80% of productivity increase to meet demand. For China, if we are able to increase 30% of productivity, we will be able to meet the Chinese demand if our population reach the maxima in 2030. But we need to reduce 50% of pollution so that we are able to have best agriculture practices in the crop production. The first step is relatively easy. You just need to reduce 20% of the input. Our experiment data show that we are able to cut 30-50% of nitrogen input, both in North China and in South China, for rice and for wheat maize system, without any yield penalty, but really reduce pollution by 2 times. That's easy for farmer to realize, but farmer could not get more benefit for their profit. They contribute to society, but they could not earn more money. Therefore, we try to develop second step strategy to increase productivity by more than 10%, reduce pollution by about 20%. The average data in whole China for rice, maize, wheat in different regions show that this technology could increase productivity by 50% and save nitrogen fertilizer by 20%, reduce greenhouse gases emission by 30%. This is technology, really we call that green technology for sustainable food production of China. The third step was very challenging because we talk about 2% productivity increase annually. For third step, we want to increase 30% of productivity. We spent more than 10 years to realize this target. 2014, we published this paper in Nature, show that on average, we were able to increase wheat, maize, rice productivity by 30% in 153 field experiments in China. In major crop production area, we were able to reduce nitrogen losses by 50% and reduce greenhouse gases emission by 40%. And also we calculated estimated that if our farmer could realize 80% of this yield target, we were able to produce enough food and feeds on current land of China. We do not need to import any feeds and food. But this is only 153 experimental, not farmers' field. It's a beautiful picture, but how to realize that in farmers' field? Really realize this picture to increase productivity by 30%, increase efficiency by 50%, and reduce pollution to minimum. This could be a beautiful feature scenario. How to realize that by farmer? Therefore, we since 2009, my group go into village, work with farmers together to see whether we are able to realize that picture or not. As we said this morning and today, in China, in India, a farmer has a very small piece of land, 0.1 to 0.3 hectare. On this piece of land, we need to realize such a high technology. How to do that? We develop a concept called that double high. We call that high productivity, high efficiency technology. And we establish a platform called that science technology backyard in a village, working with farmers together, make innovation, training farmer, and working with farmer together to make progress to realize technology on farmers' field. We do some demonstration, and also if farmer could not convince themselves, they start doing their own experiment for all technologies, seeds, plow, and field management, and so on. We also organize farmer field school. We organize very intensive training, not only by ourselves, but also by leading farmer, the training other farmers in the village. In that way, we try to close the yield gap. This is experiment data, experimental yield from our field, our experimental field. This is average farmer's yield at the beginning. We choose 10 technology. We analyze all these technologies, how important is this technology, how much this technology contribute to close yield gap. But then we realize that more than 50 to 100% of farmer did not use all this good technology. The reason is because either they do not have this knowledge, or they do not have facility, or they do not have infrastructure to use this technology. We try to solve this problem with farmers together, and ask a farmer, really help a farmer to make a progress. You see, this figure show our technology. We have a much higher yield, high nutrient use efficiency, high water use efficiency, but farmer adopted our technology, modify our technology. They reduce a little bit productivity and water nutrient use efficiency, but reduce the costs of labor and the cost of management. They are able to get more profit from their field. You see, from 2009, farmer make much better progress in their field. Means that farmer very quickly and also modify our technology adapted to local condition. They are able to change their practices in 2-3 years very quickly. In this country, it's about about 300,000 farmers with 40,000 hectare wheat maize field. In last about 5 years, they were able to increase productivity by about 30% without increased input, rather reduce fertilizer and water input and increase nutrient use efficiency and water use efficiency in this country. This example shows that the technology potential is there. And also, if you are doing in the right way, working with farmers together, you are able to transfer your knowledge and technology to farmer to realize transformation. But China is very big. We have more than 3,000 counties. Now it's just one county, one small county. We try to demonstrate in other counties. In the moment, we have 81 science technology backyard across China, cover all different cropping system. We are able to demonstrate that the technology potential and knowledge transfer potential to realize transformation of agriculture in China. But it's still very, very small portion, less than 1% of cropland we can cover in China every year. We still face very, very big challenge to make transformation of agriculture in China. Ji Kong talked about the policy and rural structure transformation. You see, from one example of the crop management, it took more than 20 years to realize this small proportion of change. We have a long way to go to change policy, to change society. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhang, for this very interesting presentation. I think we should discuss it right now before we move on to the Skype session. So are there some questions? Yeah, Junfei. Well, let's collect again. Maybe we have 3. Somewhere else, some other questions? Yes, Carl. Is there one more? Yeah. Okay. Are you also? Okay. Let's have your first.
I have 2 questions. Very interesting presentation. My first question is about the farmers' behavior when using fertilizer. I know in China it's pretty, as you talked, the overused fertilizer. But can you, what's the major reasons the farmers are not, reducing the fertilizer using? What's the big reason? Just except the knowledge, anything else could be the reason? And the second is, it is, thanks for your great effort to work together with the villagers, sending students and your colleagues into a village living there. That's a great contribution. But however, as you mentioned, it's just a very small proportion of farmers could get a benefit. My question is whether or not those farmers, they are involved in your, you call it STB, right? And they can spill over the knowledge or technology learned from this, innovation to other farmers. Do you have any observations for that? Thank you.
Okay, Carl, next question.
Are there in China? Are there any programs that are like payments for environmental services or things like that that might give farmers an incentive to get into step one even without higher productivity, but giving them an incentive to reduce the nitrogen? I know that kind of goes against the subsidies for fertilizer, which are working in the different direction, I suppose. But to what extent have you sort of considered some of these monetary incentives? And then just one small question, technical question, I guess. You're mentioning that cadmium availability increased with pH drop. Is that also partially due to that phosphorus fertilizer that they haven't really gotten the cadmium all out of the rock phosphorus that's being put on?
Okay, then Professor Singh, can we take one more?
Yeah, a very good presentation, but I think there are only three ways to help a farmer in terms of sustainability: yield, cost, and prices. You had a lot of emphasis on yield enhancement and cost reduction. Cost reduction is welcome, but still I saw a lot of yield orientation, production orientation in your presentation. What about prices and markets? I think that is the ultimate solution to sustainability at the farmer level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Junfei's question, farmers' behavior to reduce the nitrogen fertilizer application. I think the over application of fertilizer is first for me. I think the first reason is because policy. Government asks farmers to produce enough without asking them to pay attention to environmental sustainability and so on. That was a major reason in last decades drive the over application of fertilizer. And also because of this policy, government give lots of subsidy to fertilizer industry. Since 2005 or 2006, government start to give lots of subsidy to farmer for fertilizer, to buy fertilizer, so-called input subsidy. The first reason is because policy. The second reason is because farmers really have a very small piece of land. For one family, the over application, the cost of over fertilization is very small. But if you add all China together, that is a very, very big number. That's the second. Third one is because knowledge, technology, and so on. Therefore, try to change farmers' behavior. Firstly, we need policy change. We had that situation already. Year before last year, December, central government changed policy. Last year, they released a new policy, so-called zero increase in chemical input till 2020. That's new policy since last year. This year, the application of the fertilizer drops already in whole China. Second is knowledge. Farmers really need knowledge to know the different fertilizers. For example, if farmer buy fertilizer, they could not realize NPK on the bags. What does that mean? 40%, 30%. What's that? Whether that really collected with money, with costs, with environment protection, and so on. They need all this knowledge. Therefore, we try to transfer that knowledge to farmer. That's short answer to your first question. Second one, for STB, for technology backyard, we have very limited students and colleagues to work in the village. Normally, we have to use the leader farmer in the village. For example, if we go to one village, just one student go to one village, then we open a so-called farmers field school. We collected about 20 best farmers in the village, asking them to become our students of this school. Then we start to work with these 20 farmers together, transfer our knowledge and technology to this farmer, and this farmer transfer knowledge to other farmers in the village. This is the normal way we are working. Actually, they are more effective than our students and staff because the village farmer laborers believe them. Also, they are more practical in the transfer of the knowledge than our students and staffs. Carl's question. Firstly, cadmium is not from phosphor fertilizer, not like Florida phosphor fertilizer. Chinese phosphor fertilizer has a very low cadmium contents. The cadmium mainly come from rocks, from mother material of the soil. Normally, this cadmium are not activated, be fixed in soil mineral. Because of the acidification, this cadmium will be activated. Normally, if the soil pH drops by 1 unit, the cadmium activity increased by 100 times. That's soil chemistry. Therefore, we need to control soil pH to eliminate the soil acidification to reduce cadmium transfer to rice. In China, we do not have much subsidy or program for payment for environment protection in crop production area yet. But this will come in. Government try to remove the subsidy for fertilizer industry or for chemical industry, use that subsidy to encourage farmer to use environment-friendly technology. Some provinces start to develop this kind of policy, but not national wide yet. About costs, I did an experiment with Jikun together, try to quantify the cost of the fertilizer 7 for farmer. As I remember, the data show that for whole season, wheat or maize, the money 7 is only about 1 or 2 days income if farmer go into city job. That means it's about 100 yuan, about 200 yuan per hectare per season. That is very small for farmer. Therefore, it's not sensitive to farmer really to save fertilizer there. That is cost. And also, the Chinese government really maintain the lower price of the fertilizer compared to grain price in last years. The relative price of the fertilizer to grain is even lower than United States. Therefore, that promote farmer use fertilizer to increase the productivity, but bring the negative aspect of the over-fertilization.
Okay. Chikun, do you want to comment?
Okay. I make quick comment. Indeed, it's a very complicated issue working with Professor Zhang for many years on these issues. I consider there are a couple of things why farmer overuse, or will not say overuse. The farmer why they use so much because of the profit maximization. It's not a year maximization. 15 years ago, I did a survey with him doing a training farmer how to reduce farm fertilizer use, and which irrefers, neither which you. And that time, a farmer uses 3 to 4 times fertilizer in one season. And after wage increasing, farmer and they use 1 time, sometimes twice. So when you use 4 times fertilizer, they use a little bit. That's a 10 kg, 10 kg, 10 kg, 40 kg 4 times. When 1 time they use 100 kg, because they're afraid at the end of season there's no nutrition in the field. So farmer use fertilizer substituting for chemical. And farmer, 2 years ago, they can save in farmer, as he said, it's about 100 to 200 yuan, but they need 3 days more. 1 day working off farm, you can earn 100 yuan. So I think a farmer is more kind of profit maximization in the substitution chemical for their own time, and it becomes more difficult when small farm. It's much popular when farm size smaller. They part-time working in urban area, part-time in home. They don't want to come back home for 2-3 days. Do one more application. That is very costly. I did a training with Fusuo. We did a training. We found farmers reduced by about 20% nitrogen use. After 8 years, I came back to same household. They returned to original behavior. And we asked why. Because you are scientists, you working with you have to working hard. So I think I see there's some impact of project. When project gone, they be returned to. They still reduce a little bit, but they return to original behavior because they feel shame if not follow your training, right? So I think this is needed to think about changing farm behavior. Is not easy. I think we need some kind of more intensive program for farmers. I also added one thing about the subsidy. I think we had debated sometime. My mother have a farm land now in my hometown. It's 0.3 hectares, very small. And he left home village for 30 years already, together with me. My mother still get a fertilizer subsidy, because fertilizer subsidy to farmers is decoupled, depending on how much any contract land in later 1990s. So in China, 230 million households get fertilizer subsidy, even they did not farming. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, then there is one more question from Dr. Nippon, and then I think we have to close. Thank you, Dr.
Professor
Nippon.
Zhang. The question is similar to comment by Ji Kun Huang. This is a problem of the management cost, labor cost of the farmers, the behavior of the farmers. In Thailand, we have similar, program, extension program by professors, soil professor, who set up their own their own foundation to promote the site-specific fertilizer use, and giving farmers all kind of advice. And then one large sugarcane mills in Thailand also try to adopt this kind of system, and it turns out that very few farmers join the program. Why? Because part of the problem is that if you apply this kind of site-specific fertilizer, the cost of mixing the fertilizer, the cost of applying the fertilizer is very high. It's management intensive. For farmers, better to use their time elsewhere and making more money, despite the fact that they show that in their study, and they publish a large number of papers showing that the cost of production drastically decline and yield also increase, and yet most farmers do not comply.
Okay, you want to comment on that, Professor Zhang, shortly as a
Yes,
closing remark? for
Yes.
that one?
You are right. This is a very knowledge-intensive technology. If you are not work with farmers together, farmers are very difficult to master this technology. This is first. Secondly, Carl talked about fertilizer we discussed yesterday. See, fertilizer industry is a commodity industry. It's not really true. Chemical fertilizer industry, they produce fertilizer according to chemical reaction and industry engineering. They never think about agriculture, soils, crops. For example, sugarcane. Sugarcane discriminate nitrate, prefer ammonium nitrate. But normally we have fertilizer, nitrate fertilizer put into soil. After 2-3 weeks, they all transfer to nitrate. Industry do not have any suitable products for this kind of crops. Therefore, try to combine the industry and agriculture together will be one another option to optimize fertilizer production and application in future.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Dr. Amar for 2 comments. Yeah.
2 lessons from this discussion. 1, the shadow price of labor is not zero, despite what economists have been propagating. Right? They believe that the shadow price of labor is zero. But I think farmers know better. We believe that farmers spend their time doing nothing. And so whatever labor they can find to do all these funny things with fertilizers and so on is free. Farmers are very busy people. Their opportunity cost of time is probably as a function of our own income is much greater than 1. Okay, so that's 1 lesson. Second lesson I forgot already. The shadow price of my memory is very high.
You have 1 more day.
Secondly, I happy to say, I think second one is I think his model help farmer one by one. Secondly, I think important is I see it happening in China, custom service. So some people in the village they help a farmer to apply fertilizer. So you cannot come back. Instead, you use one time 100 kg. So I help you do that 2-3 times. Each time 10 kg or 20 kg. So customer service, pay for customer service in fertilizer utilization. I think that's the other way to get out this problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second lesson. Now I got economies of scale are always very important. Fertilizer factories don't want to produce very many different kinds of fertilizers to suit each farmer. Okay, and let's face it, Erie when it starts its cropping, its program on rice way back before IRA came out. What they look for? They look for non-photo period sensitive. Why? Because the same variety can be used against so many latitudes. Okay? That's why they want the photo period non-sensitivity. So we tend to forget about economies of scale, particularly we in the agricultural field. It's still very important, particularly if you're using industrial inputs. It has to be used, same thing has to be used across a large number of plots.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amar. I think that also brings us to a very nice closing of this part.